This show brought to you by Circle of Seven Productions, www.cosproductions.com. Please be sure to subscribe and welcome to our circle.
Well, hello, everybody. This is Patricia W. Fisher with Readers Entertainment Radio, and I am super excited today because we have such a fun guest to talk about a super fun book. And if those of you who love the movie Groundhog Day, you will absolutely adore the book that we're going to be talking about today. But let me tell you about our author here real quick. Amy Bearce, and that's B as in boy, E-A-R-C-E, writes Magical Escapes for Young Readers and the Young at Heart. She's the author of the World of Aluvia series, Shortcuts, and Paris on Repeat, which is the book we'll talk about today. She's also a former reading teacher and school librarian. As a military kid, she moved 8 times before she was 18, so she feels especially fortunate to be married to her high school sweetheart, and together they're raising 2 daughters here in Central Texas. You can find her at her website, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn, and her books are on Amazon and BookBub. Welcome to the show, Amy. How are you?
Thank you for having me. I'm doing great. Thank you. How about yourself?
Pretty good. The kids are in school, which means they're sitting at our dining room and kitchen tables and spread everywhere. But yes. We've got food in the pantry and a roof over our heads, so we'll start there and
That's right.
Be grateful for it, right?
Absolutely.
So tell me so you've got your new book out called Paris on Repeat, but you've written these other stories as well. What drew you to wanting to write about something that was magical or paranormal, or what was the draw for that?
I think for me, I've always enjoyed fantasy and science fiction as a reader. It's been my favorite type of story since I was little. I remember the first book I ever bought, actually with my own money, was a really lovely hardcover edition of fairy tales, Grimm's, and Hans Christian Andersen. And it's just always, I wanted to be a mermaid when I was little, the whole thing. And so when I was reading for myself, magic always entered into it. It just makes it so much more fun. There's so many possibilities to go with it. So I think it's just sort of part of me.
Well, yeah, my grandfather's parents came from Denmark, so we definitely grew up with Hans Christian Andersen, The Little Mermaid, and the hair. I always loved it. Being in the pool or the bathtub. I'm sure you probably did this, but laying down and your hair would wave because you swing your hair back and forth. I still love doing that.
Absolutely.
But it's also funny because as we get older and we do read the original stories, and I mean older, whether it's single digits or we get into our 10s or teens or older, those fairy tales are kind of brutal.
They are. And I feel like that's part of what made them, not so much, some of them are super brutal, but even The Little Mermaid in the original tale, the poignancy and the bittersweetness, I feel like, I think of my books as all being escapism, but really, especially my first series, there is that same kind of edge there of there's a lot of darkness and things that they're fighting for and against, and there's some sacrifice. And so my friends that are laugh at me when I describe my books as being light, they're like, is it really though? But the first 3 in particular, I feel like as I've written, I've gotten a little bit more where, like my last book, Paris on Repeat, is a much lighter feel, I think, than my first 3 books. But all of them, I still want happy endings, and I still want people to walk away feeling good.
Right. Well, and we've all read stories that were a little bit, we're all sitting there going, okay, this is great. We know they're going to end up together because we're watching it because we know that's what's going to happen. Or there's no real conflict, you know what I mean? There's no... like you're saying, you have to fight the darkness to get to the light, and so we want the conflict. And so, it's always very interesting to see how people tend to crave that and put it there. So, when you came up with this idea of Paris on Repeat, what was the catalyst for that?
We were living overseas at the time, and my husband's civil service, so we were in Germany, and so we were able to travel quite a bit, and Paris was 5 hours from where we lived, so we went several times, and I knew that I wanted a story. I wanted to use these settings that we were seeing. I was taking a lot of notes, and it's so beautiful, and I thought, I really want to tell a story here. And I was looking for a way that would involve magic because that's just my interest. And as we were walking around, they have love locks everywhere. And these traditions of couples putting their name on them or whatever and locking them. And it's not necessarily a beloved thing for the city because it's caused a lot of issues with the weight and the pollution of it. But my kid at the time, I think she was like 9 or 10, my youngest, and she said, what is with all these locks? And so we talked about them. And she said, well, what would happen if one of them broke? If this is supposed to mean forever love and one of them breaks, what does that mean? And she wasn't really being serious, but it stuck in my head. And I thought, oh, my gosh, what if something happens to the lock? And so there is a love lock in Paris on Repeat. The original title when I was working on it was Love Locked, actually. But because it's less of a romance as much as an adventure story, they felt like that title made it sound too much of a romance. But that it was the core of the story was, okay, there's a love lock and there's a wish and the love lock breaks and then what's going to happen after that. So it's really my child's what-if question. I use what-ifs a lot when I come up with my stories. Book 1 was also that. I was studying colony collapse disorder and what was happening with the bees and the queen bees leaving and the whole hive dying, and people weren't sure what was going on. And I thought, what if instead of bees, those were fairies? And that is where that story came from. So I find what-ifs to be a really helpful tool for creating story ideas.
Oh, what if is wonderful. You know, I've done that with my kids, and I'm sure you have with yours. There's like, I just don't know what to write here. I don't know what to say. And you say, well, what if you fill in the blank? And even if you don't use any of the ideas, whether they're crazy or irrational or, somewhere in between, it does tend to get people out of that tunnel vision.
Exactly. You never know where it's going to take you.
Yeah. One of my most fun things about being a writer is having other writers as friends. And so the best. It is, because you don't have to explain why you're writing whatever. So if you want to write a murder mystery and you want to kill someone in a particularly awful way, nobody's worried about calling anyone for your well-being or theirs. So it's fun to have that what if and to think about the locks. And for anyone who doesn't know, Paris and a lot of places in Europe have these bridges where you can take a lock and you go there with someone special, whether it's your fiancé or your lover at the time or what have you, and you put the lock on like love is forever, and then you throw the key in the water. And didn't they recently take one of those down?
The most famous bridge in Paris, they took off the panels because they were so heavy, they were afraid it was going to crash on one of the river barges one of these days. It was just weighing down the whole bridge. So they actually put plexiglass all along the most famous of the bridges, and still people will find any little hinge, any little spot, like people are determined, and they're still using them. But they moved a lot of those panels to the very end of the Ile de Cité. I don't know if I'm saying that exactly right, but the very end of the tip of the island where Notre Dame and Sainte-Chapelle sit, they have a whole like a fence line full of the locks that they have moved, and people still put them there. So I have pictures on my website where you can see it's just golden lines and lines of all these people's locks, which are really representing their relationship and their hopes and their dreams. And so I'm glad they saved them, even though I totally understand the risks of having them where they were. And up on the Eiffel Tower, they have big signs with like the little love lock kind of silhouette with a big red line through it, because if something like that fell, that would be really dangerous. So,
oh gosh, we went to Paris a couple of years ago, and but it was the first time I'd been, and my husband had this wonderful idea to go to the very top and take pictures, and we'd be all happy. And I really, really, really hate going up elevators in tiny spaces. And
did you make it up?
Paris. I did, and it was one of those things where you get to that first level, and you're looking, and the view is spectacular. I mean, it's even if you have a fear of heights, really just suck it up and get up there, because it is beautiful. And the day was cloudless, and you could see so much. And then I turned around to look up at the top level, and I was like, oh my God. But I told myself I'm not going to be back anytime soon, so I have to do this while I'm here.
Oh, you were brave.
And I did it. And we got up there, and I was really stressing. And again, the view is just magnificent. I mean, it's tremendous. But my husband was a little frustrated with me because I was so stressed being so high up. And then the other part of it is having to be in the elevator to go back down because each level you hear that ka-clunk, ka-clunk, ka-clunk.
Yeah.
You know? And
yes, and you
thinking,
can see out.
Okay, one more floor.
You know.
One more floor.
Breathing very slowly. Yes, the first 2 times I went there, I did not go to the very top. My husband did, and he took the kids. I was like, I am not going up there. And then by the third one, I thought, I'm going to put this in the book. I have to go. I have to experience it myself. So Eve has a lot of anxiety on the way up, and a lot of that is just true to me. It's my feelings as I ascended, and you're looking at the little glass box, and everything's getting really tiny. And, it was hard for me, too, for sure. So
I think once I got up there, though, for a little while, I was distracted for a little while because the view is just spectacular, and I just took a ton of pictures. And I can only imagine what it'd be like if it had snowed or if it was cold. I'm sure it was ridiculous. It'd be ridiculous up there.
Yeah,
but the view of Paris with snow,
it's something else.
I mean, I bet it was. But I laughed. I kind of kept distracted also in the elevator itself because there's the elevator operators who do this 8-10 hours a day. They look completely uninterested.
Oh sure, it's like whatever.
Yeah, whatever. Get in, get out. I don't care. So it was actually delightful. But it is one of those things. Yeah, and one of the things I didn't realize about we went there in June, so it's late. It's not dark till late.
Yes.
It was like 10 o'clock, I think, close to 10.
Very
the
late.
Sun went
Germany's
down.
the same way. Oh, and I was like, the sun's never setting. What's happening?
Yes, please. But we were there. I think it was a Friday evening, and I wasn't prepared for so much activity. And around the Eiffel Tower at night, you have all the vendors, you have, of course, the food, the music. People are playing live music, and there's dancing, and then the tower lights up.
Oh, the tower at night is just, it's so beautiful. We took an evening river cruise at night, and it was just everybody's favorite part for us, seeing everything lit up, all the buildings with their beautiful evening lights shining. So it's really lovely.
Yeah, it's just a really cool city, and there's just so many little things here and there. And of course, if you only go for one visit, you really need to go back for more because it's just too many things to cram.
For sure.
And it was lovely. And so you've picked Paris for this book, and so give us a summation of what the story is about. So you've got magic and you've got Paris.
Right.
So
we have the spin on, as you pointed out, it is a Groundhog Day story, and 14-year-old Eve, who is a military kid living overseas, is reliving the same horrible day over and over while on a class trip to Paris. So she is trying to tell her crush that she likes him before he moves. This is a group of military kids. I chose military kids in part because I was a military kid, and because when you're living overseas, these trips to Paris aren't as outrageous as it sounds like. If they're a school somewhere in Texas and you're going to Paris, that's a whole different kind of story than we live 5 hours away and we're taking a bus from my school. So this is a group of kids who live over there, and military kids. And so she's trying to share her heart, but it's terrifying to her. And when she ends up trapped, she doesn't know why. And so the things don't go as well as she hoped when she tries to tell Jace, her crush. And so she's forced to keep reliving the same day over and over until something or someone changes. That's kind of the idea there.
I can't, I was reading it, and I'm just like, God, as if middle school isn't stressful enough, and now you've got to relive worst day ever. Yeah. Bad days in middle school always would rank like the top 3 to 5 ever for your lifetime. Like,
for sure. It's a hard time, for sure.
It's awful. But you've got such cool, you go around the city, and they're seeing all this cool stuff, and it's fun to watch and to read through it.
I'm so glad. Yay, that was my hope.
Yay! And the story's very light, very age appropriate, but it's a fun read. because we could all sit there and go, oh, God, I remember being 14 and completely stressed out.
I wanted it to be authentic for her growth. And as she's going through the city, and we're seeing she's going to the same places, but she's seeing them in different ways as she changes. And so my hope was also that her view of the city is reflecting her own growth, too, as she goes through the story.
So how many times did you watch Groundhog Day to take notes?
Actually, I didn't watch that while I was writing this. I actually didn't, because I think I was either afraid I would pull too hard and be too closely aligned to it, but also my characters are so different. Like his character arc, he's an unlikable, he needs to be redeemed in this story, whereas Eve is going through a very different character growth, where she's somebody we're hopefully sympathetic with from the beginning, where we're rooting for her to be able to tell Jace and have the answer she hopes for, and we're watching her with her friends, and she's kind of on the sidelines. And so for her, the biggest challenge for me in writing this was making sure that the days were different enough that it wasn't repetitive for the reader. So she's, going back to the Eiffel Tower every day, but we don't want it to be the same story. So,
right.
I didn't actually watch that one, amazingly enough. I do like the movie though. I love the concept.
Yeah. There's this. It's fun. We quote from it frequently at our house.
Fun.
So it's one of those things, like my husband was fixing something with the water yesterday, and he left to go to the hardware store, and I didn't realize he had turned the water off. And he had to, so he had to get this valve out, otherwise we'd have a pool in our bathroom. Mm-hmm. And I was distracted, and I said, "You turn the water off?" And he's like, "Well, of course there wouldn't be any water on Tuesdays, like they have in the movie." Yeah. I said, it's ironic you say that, because I'll be interviewing someone tomorrow. So you've not only got this book that's out now, but you have another one coming, correct?
Correct. It's coming February 2nd, and it's called Rome Reframed. So it's a non-sequel book in the series. So it's book 2 of the Wish and Wonder series, but it is not with the same characters. Okay.
And can you give us a little tidbit about what that's about?
Sure. So in Rome Reframed, we're following a boy named Lucas, who's also in 8th grade, and he and his parents and his little brothers have been on a 6-month trip through Europe. His parents are professors who are writing a book about, history, world history. And he is not a great student. He's an athlete, and he's really done with traveling. They have just a couple more weeks left to go before he can go home, and he's really homesick. And in this case, the Trevi Fountain is a famous fountain in Rome, where if you wish on the fountain with a coin, you'll return to Rome. So the idea for this, like in Paris, we have the Lovelock, and here he is there wishing to go home, and he gets given a special coin from the same palm reader who's in book 1, and he wishes he was back home, but Rome wants him to learn more about himself before he goes back. So he's struggling in his classes. He's not been doing his projects. He's supposed to be doing a city project for his art history and English teacher. He's failing, so he's going to fail 8th grade if he doesn't produce a fabulous project for Rome. So he starts going back through Rome. He takes short hops through time at these various places. So we're going back to ancient Rome, and we see the Colosseum. And so he's learning about Roman history through this magic with his Italian friends who's joining him on these trips, but he's also learning about himself. So he doesn't think that he's artistic or a student that's of any caliber like his family, who are all these professors and A students, but he learns there's more to him than he knows.
Right. Well, and, so the first one's a more Groundhog Day theme, and then the second one is a time travel.
It's a time travel, kind of like a Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, although they don't bring anybody back with them. So he is struggling to try to do better in school, and he does travel back through time, but it's not like a historical fiction. He's not living back in time. It's contemporary, just like this one, with short hops back in time.
So does he get to interact with anyone in time, or is he just an observer?
He does.
Oh,
he gets to interact with at least one person per place. And the times vary depending on, as you progress through the novel, they become a little more recent. And so he gets to meet Michelangelo, which is something I've always wanted to do. So it's a little, not too bad of a spoiler, I don't think. And that was really fun. Like, this was really fun for me research-wise, to be able to study up on what it was like at those different times. And I've been to those places. We did get to travel to Rome. So the first time we went with a tour guide who was wonderful, and we saw all the big places. And we moved really fast because it was a larger tour. And then we went back to the Coliseum and back to the Pantheon and took our time. And we also found a lot of out of the way places that are just beautiful that I think a lot of tourists don't see. And so I tried to include those places as well.
Yeah, I think it adds a little bit more flavor. I'm always amazed at human engineering. You know, you see the things like the Coliseum, you see the all these. I mean, even the aqueducts. You know, it's just like, wow. You know, somebody. Granted, it was a lot of people who probably would have preferred not to be working on it, but let's call it what it is, right? But it always it just amazes me at the way people were able to build and build and build and build bigger and build. I mean, you just wonder, it's like, and who were all the people that we'll never know their names because they contributed to this column or this thing or,
those are large cathedrals. I mean, and it took hundreds of years, it's amazing for sure. So hopefully that one will also be like a little mini vacation to Rome, like this one was for Paris. I hope so.
So you also have things in it like food and that sort of thing. And was that how much research did you have to do for that? Did you have to make stuff, or did you pull from memory, or I mean, how did you go about deciding what to include for that?
For the Paris book, a lot of that was experience. I love food. It's actually my favorite part of travel is the food. Yeah. And so everywhere we go, we took notes on what we would order and what it was like, because I love food descriptions in books. And a lot of fantasy books have those, and sometimes they're made up food, but nevertheless, they're always my favorite part of the book. And so I knew that there would definitely be food in these books. And so I didn't necessarily review my notes, but I had a very vivid memory of some of these experiences. So I definitely included those in the book. And for Rome, there was an appetizer that's included that I watched a video on how to make it, but I'm a terrible cook. So the truth is I would love to be a really great cook. I love the idea of cooking, and then I'm really not any good at it. So luckily my spouse is great. So I enjoy good meals. I try. I do. I'm not great at food preparation, but I admire those who can, and I love the end products.
There is a great book that talks about that. There's one, it's called Italian Lessons, and it's a guy he's a native, he's Italian, and he teaches this kid who's a rugby player over the summer, and everything. It's just like all this food, he brings out all this food and talks to him.
Well, I'm going to
need to get
so good. The author's name. This sounds
but
right
it
up my
does
alley.
add that layer. Yeah, and it does add that layer because, we all have memories of food somewhere, whether we were one of our family members made it for us or talked about it, or you sat over the table or whatever. One of the things I really would love to be able to master at some point in my life is the proper flour and potato ratio for gnocchi, because I always end up,
yes.
Man, that is hard. I mean, you boil all these potatoes, you kind of eyeball it, right? And then I need this much flour. No, wait, I need this much. It's a lot.
I can't do it. I mean, I bought a beautiful Italian cookbook while we were there because I was like, I'm going to learn. No, it was sad results. So I just think fondly back on the memories of what real chefs actually made and enjoy those memories.
Well, and they make it look easy, which is their thing, It's like, oh, that looks easy. And
which is such a gift for them and for us when we receive their food. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. So now that you've got Paris and you've got Rome, are you pinning a third one? Are you going farther? Is the palm reader going to move around Europe for us and tell us more stories?
It's definitely a possibility. There's not a book under contract at this time, so it was a 2-book contract, and so what happens is after the second book comes out, then they look and decide, and we see if there's interest in readers to pursue that. So the next book that's set up in the end of Rome, just like in the end of Paris, there's that little blip that has the mention of Rome and the Trevi Fountain. In the end of Rome, there's a mention of Ireland with Blarney Castle, which the tradition there is if you kiss the Blarney Stone, you get the gift of gab. So, but I'm going to play with that. It's a little bit of a liar for tweens idea that I have, but I haven't written it, and I don't know if I'll get to, but I sure would love to. There's actually I have a story idea set in Spain, set in London. So yeah, I would love to continue it. So we'll just have to see if it happens. I also have a ghost story I'm working on that's entirely separate. So who knows? Lots of options.
Tell us a little bit about the ghost story then, because you've got two different genres going on right now.
Yeah, I usually have multiple works that are going on. So I just turned in my edits for Rome. I'm thinking through the story idea for Ireland in case they're interested in that. And then I'm actually just recently, my agent left the agency, so I am looking for a new agent. So to have a new agent, you query with a full new manuscript. And so I have written a story about a girl whose mother has started a haunted house touring agency in hopes of being able to stay in this little Texas town, but it's not going very well. But our main character has seen a ghost there. She knows they're real, so she tries to stir up the ghost to get the people to come see, but she stirs up something bigger and badder than she expects. So it's kind of a not exactly poltergeist, but it's a middle grade scary ghost story, and it was a lot of fun to write. But it doesn't have a home yet at this time, so I'm querying that story, and then I have a couple other ideas on the back burner. So I always try to keep a list of, an idea pops in your head and you jot it down, and then when you have some free time, you think on that. So it's actually, that's one of my favorite stages of writing, is kind of the brainstorming and drafting of ideas. So I'm kind of playing with a few different ideas right now. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's always fun to kind of say, like you're saying, what if we did this? So what is it, you've always been a reader, I would assume, and because you became a librarian, you were a teacher. What was the catalyst for you to say, you know what, I want to write a book someday, and then you do it?
That is a great question. So I was working for a while in the civil service. So after I was teaching, I was working in education and training in the civil service, and someone invited me. A friend of mine worked for an assessment company and said, look, we need items. We need reading items for this test, and you were a reading teacher. Are you interested in doing this work freelance? So I started writing freelance test questions and assessment stuff. And then it became, hey, we need a poem or a passage or a narrative. Are you interested in writing that? So I would write that, and I enjoyed it, and started having ideas of my own that would need a longer form, a book-length idea. And I thought, well, I love reading books, and I'm writing short stories. Maybe I could write a book. And so I researched the Society of Children's Books Writers and Illustrators. It's a CBWI. For anyone who's listening who's interested in writing for young people, that is a fabulous organization to join. There's a lot of training that's available for free even before you become a member, and then lots more once you do. And started going to conferences and talking to other writers, and really was encouraged to try it. And my first book was not the first book I ever wrote. I actually wrote 4 complete manuscripts before I finished Fairy Keeper and sold it to the publisher that published it. So it wasn't an overnight thing. I think I've been a member now of SCBWI for 10 years, I think. So I started working on my first novel a little over 10 years ago. But before that, I liked writing. I was writing short stories.
Yeah. I think that after a lot of times people go to conferences, it's that feeling that you walk away going, okay, so I'm not crazy, for one, wanting to write a book. And second, there's a lot of people out here doing what I want to do as well.
That's right.
That validation,
and they're people.
Yeah,
it's not a magic trick. It's hard work, and there's skills that you can learn to do it. It's very exciting to see kind of the skills broke down. Like, okay, this is possible. I could actually try this. And it does take a lot of tenacity, as you know. It's hard. It's a lot of hard work, but it's so satisfying when you complete the story and other people read it and enjoy it. It's the best thing.
Yeah, I think there's phases. Like you finish the book, and then you pitch it, and then someone calls you and say they want it, get the contract, you do your edits. All these things are different. Then you get your cover. Then you get to tell everybody, along the way of the different things. Yeah. And then it goes live. And it's interesting because you go, okay, now my book is live. I'm going to go back here and work on this other book that I need to finish. And then people start contacting you. I read your book. And it's like, wait, what? You read it?
Yes, it was shocking. It's amazing every time, for sure. Like, wow, this is, and it's just awesome.
It is. It is. So tell me what happened when you got that first call of your first book was going to get published.
Well, it was really unexpected for me. I was working on I did a Twitter pitch contest. So if people who are not familiar with that, on Twitter there's a large writing community, and they'll hold these pitch parties where you tweet a short little line about your book, and editors and agents who are interested will heart it, and then you can query them with your manuscript. And I was contacted by a small press that was interested, but we were moving overseas in like 4 months. It was right before we moved. And so everything was in chaos, and they were about to come pack up our whole house because it takes a long time for your stuff to get overseas. So it was a really stressful time, even though it was very exciting. And you have to do your due diligence and research the company and make sure that you feel like they would be a trustworthy, good company to take your book. And so I did end up signing with them, and we moved. And so I was working on edits while in Germany, and my editor was fabulous. And you don't get to pick your editor, and I was very fortunate because she took what was a very rough manuscript in retrospect and really helped me shape it. I changed the whole point of view. It was written in first person present, and it's now in third person past. So I changed every word just about.
Wow.
And it was a lot of work. But I learned tremendous amount of things from her. Like she was fantastic. So that whole experience was great. It's not necessarily, that company didn't end up lasting after 3 years. So I have my rights back for those first 3, and they were republished with Snowy Wings Press, which was a whole nother, or Snowy Wings Publishing, which was a whole nother learning curve. And then Shortcuts was published with Seabay Books, and then Paris on Repeat is with Jollyfish. So I've worked with a number of different companies, and all of them actually have been really wonderful people to work with, and different kind of technical processes, but all the same basic things. You still have your editor, and you still have your different levels of editing, and it still goes to proofreading. And, with the cover artist for Paris on Repeat and Rome Reframed, I just could not be happier. And you don't always get it. You don't get a choice in that. So I've been really fortunate with my covers. Very thankful for those cover artists. A lot of students always want to know, like, how did you do your covers? Well, I don't do my covers, and I don't have that kind of artistic talent. So they hire that out, and they ask your opinion if you're lucky. And I have been lucky to be able to give some notes on, this versus that. So been really thankful for that.
Yeah, I mean, it was interesting, all those things we learn as we're going through this process, because definitely you don't get a lot of say on your cover at all. And a lot of people think, oh, yeah, the author's getting, it's like, no, not really. I mean, it depends on the publisher, of course.
Correct. Of course.
But, yeah, you fill out a sheet, and you tell them what it's about, and then you back away. And unless it's like a truly awful cover that they have, like, cows on the front, and you're in New York City and there's no cows, you could say, please, no cows. Right. But in general, you don't have much. And you would think that people would think you would, because, hey, it's your book. It's like, yes, I know, but.
Right. Students are always very surprised by that. Yeah.
Yeah. I think there's also the surprise that not every writer's a gazillionaire.
Oh, yeah. That's always shocking. I'm like, no, for sure, no.
Yeah, no. It's I think maybe half or make enough that that can be sustainable. Like, it's not like they're millionaires. Yeah, livable.
Yeah, no.
But I mean,
right.
But it's not just one book too. It can't just be, you've got to keep writing.
No, the ones I know, they have many books out.
Yeah.
Very prolific writers out there.
So, and speaking of other writers, I understand that you made a deal with a writer years ago that you were both going to write books and get published. Mm-hmm. And so did you want to tell me a little bit about that?
Sure. So my friend Carly Bloom is a romance author today, and she has several books out, and they're wonderful. But we know each other from back in the days when we met each other through a mother's group, like a parenting group in town. Mm-hmm. So she lives nearby, and we started talking first about parenting stuff, and her kids are a little bit older than mine, so I leaned on her a lot during my kids' younger years, and she was wonderful. And as we started talking about other things, it came out we both enjoyed writing, and we both were interested in writing a book, and so she's like, we're both going to do this. let's both make it. We're going to work together. We're going to read each other's stuff, and we're going to get published. And I was like, all right. So we would meet at Barnes and Noble, and we'd go look at the YA and middle grade books for me. We'd go walk through the romance aisle for her, and we talk and encourage each other. It is a hard business, so you need someone who can commiserate with you sometimes. And we both actually had our first books come out around the same time, and our books have, we've had books coming out since then, and it's been, I stop and think about it sometimes, just the odds of that, of us both being able to achieve that, and it's remarkable, but also really exciting and encouraging. It's a sweet thing to look back and realize we both did it, in part because we were there for each other.
Yeah, and encouraging, and you do need that person that, like we were talking about earlier, is I don't have to explain while I'm writing. Well, I don't have to explain why I keep doing this, why I keep getting rejections, why I keep trying, because I really, really want to write this. You don't have to explain it. So to have someone celebrate with you as well, they truly understand what that call means, or that book sale, or that really cool book trailer that's out. It's a lot of work. And to have those positive influences is huge. And so you've got these different projects. I mean, are you the kind of writer that has so many projects you'll never write them all?
Maybe. I don't want to think that I might not, but I might not. And so, and especially now, like I've had to put writing on the back burner a little bit. Like a lot of people right now with kids at home doing school, I've got 2 high schoolers. And so like right now it's been such a learning curve, and they do most of they're doing their own work, but the technical stuff of getting online and finding the stuff in our Wi-Fi and so it's just been a lot lately, but I'm hopefully going to be able to get to some more stories pretty soon. I'm hoping that I keep writing.
So what is, with you being a school librarian, what are some of the things that some parents come to you when they say, let me put it this way. What are some suggestions you give to parents when they come to you and say, my child does not like to read?
Well, my biggest suggestion is let them choose their own books, and if that means graphic novels or comic books, that's okay. I struggled with some people who not feeling like those were valid choices. And I actually read X-Men comics as a 5th grader. I had an X-Men subscription, and I read them before I started reading those 6 fantasy novels that I was reading in junior high. I was reading comics in 5th grade, and I feel like some people are reluctant to let their kids read those things. They don't count. Or audiobooks. I would encourage them to use audiobooks. Anything that's going to expose them to story, the format of story soaks in whether you're listening to it or you're reading it in little speech bubbles or in text. So I would just really encourage, give them a lot of options. Let them pick whatever of that sounds good to them. That's my top suggestion. Student choice.
Yeah. And I've noticed, too, for kids who, like a couple of my children have dyslexia, and so reading has never been their favorite. But I've found books that's like, would you be willing to read this if I got the audio version and you read along?
Yeah, that's fabulous.
And they would say, oh, yeah, because, I've got 4 kids, and yeah, sure, I would love to sit down and read with all of you every day, but that's just the time is not always
that's a lot
there.
That's
but
a wonderful thing to do.
We did that, and then the other thing, one of my kids, she'd get real frustrated with reading and hated it, and we found one of those digital bookmarks that are a dictionary, so she could look up the word, because she was just kind of reading along, and she didn't understand what was going on.
Skipping over those words that she didn't know. Yeah. And sometimes if you do that just every once in a while, you can still piece together the content. But if it's too much, then yes, you're losing too much of the content for sure. So that sounds like that's a great solution. And there's also
I found it by accident.
Specifically made for that. Oh, well, that's awesome. Yeah. Hopefully some of your listeners will try that out. And there are, you can ask your school librarians too, there are series that are created specifically for older students who struggle with reading a little bit, and they are intended to be high action, interesting, engaging, and age appropriate as far as interest of what would be, engaging for an older, like a middle school student or a high school student or upper elementary school, with shorter lengths, more white space, and that sort of thing to help kind of stair step through that difficulty level of the book. And so they're called high-low, and you can ask school librarians about that. And those are some good options too, if you're looking for specifics, like things like that.
Okay, and they would ask for high-low book series or books on the high-low list?
It's usually, yeah, it can be, there's lists, but these are specifically created as a series that are marketed to libraries kind of for this purpose. So they can say, well, try this book. And if they like that book, 10 other ones that they can go through and kind of, practice that skill.
Yeah, I think that, all of us, I did it, with the graphic novels, and I had a friend of mine say, stop doing that. Stop looking down at it, because it's one of those things. It's like, well, it's not really reading. It's like, but it is, because you still have to understand the story. And then sometimes those graphic novels have those visual cues that they need.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
It really supports
Nathan Hale does
it's
a real good one.
Fabulous.
Yeah.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah, he's just the nicest person. And my daughter just loves his series. But, he does a real good one for Nathan Hale. And is it George O'Connor? Is that right? He does the Greek series. Connell. Maybe it's Connell.
Maybe.
But he does the gods and goddesses of Olympus. And then, of course, you have comic books. You have Gail Simone and plenty of others that are fabulous. I think the goal is just get them to read, right?
Absolutely. That's it. I mean, the more time spent in the story, the more time they're going to pick up those vocabulary words and pick up how stories work and character arc. And, absolutely. And there's a lot of, even Wimpy Kid and some of these books that have the illustrations that are heavily illustrated, the Last Kids on Earth series for my fifth graders. They love that series, I think, in part because there were these little illustrations that wasn't as heavily illustrated as a graphic novel or comic, but it was enough that it gave their eyes a break and it supported what was happening in the text as a kind of a touchstone of, yes, okay, I'm following along. This is what I just read. This scene is what I pictured. And it really, they loved it, and they just absorbed those books. They loved them.
Wow. Yeah, and you make a good point about giving the eyes a break, because I think we have them jump to, you have elementary school readers and then middle grade and then YA, and it's a lot of text with the YAs.
Yeah. And some of those books are really thick, especially fantasy.
They are. There's a lot going on. And so, that makes a lot of sense to just kind of have a break on that. So, well, thank you for your suggestions. That makes that will help somebody for sure.
Yeah. I hope so.
Well, thank you so much for coming on today. I really appreciate you, Amy.
Well, thank you for having me. This has been a wonderful conversation. I hope that your listeners enjoyed what we were discussing and picked out any of those issues or points that we talked about as far as reading support. You can always, if you have questions, you can write me on my website. There's a contact page. I'd love to hear from people.
Oh, that's wonderful. And I also have the link for her website, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn, and then her books are on Amazon and BookBub. And I have been talking to Amy Bearce. She wrote the book Paris on Repeat. It is out now. Pick it up. It's middle grade, but it is so much fun. And then something else I really wanted to throw out there is a huge big thank you to Sheila English, who is my boss, and Lisa Kessler, who is one of my partners in crime here at Readers Entertainment Radio, that we have been ranked on FeedSpot's top list of book review podcasts. So we are super excited about that. And we wanted to thank all of the listeners and everybody for listening and tuning in and all your wonderful support. So thank you so much for all that. And it's because we have fabulous guests like Amy that come on and tell us about her incredible books and her wonderful writer's journey. So thank you again, Amy, for being on. Please come back.
Thank you.
When we can talk about Rome.
Thank you. I would love to do that.
And this has been Patricia W. Fisher with Readers Entertainment Radio, and keep on reading, everybody.
This show brought to you by Circle of Seven Productions, www.cosproductions.com. Please be sure to subscribe, and welcome to our circle.